We now stand at the threshold of this immense biological structure, where sweat glistens like diamond beads on the terrain of human skin, bearing witness to the effort and heat emanating from the deep recesses we are about to penetrate. From this position, we approach slowly and cautiously the surface of this living planet, where pores appear like dormant volcanic craters, while passing breezes whisper over fine hairs, announcing the beginning of our descent journey into the unknown. We now pierce the first barrier, where the laws of the outer world fade away and familiar gravity dissolves, as we dive into the interwoven layers of the dermis, where collagen fibers form an infinite support network. After that, we pass through the subcutaneous fat layers, those glowing golden spheres that silently store energy, paving the way toward the most complex engineering structure in the human body. Meanwhile, the deep fascial membrane appears before us, like a white, silky curtain extending to the infinite horizon, protecting the mechanical secrets lying beneath it and separating the stillness of the surface from the storm of movement below. As we continue forward, we pierce the white curtain to enter a magnificent crimson world, the outer membrane of the muscle, where walls are clothed in the color of blood and life, and we begin to hear the echo of distant pulses reverberating in this vast space. Then, the giant muscle bundles appear to us now, arranged like massive cables under an ocean of interstitial fluids, each bundle carrying a promise of latent power, waiting for the signal to be released. We glide through the narrow spaces between these bundles, where delicate connective tissue surrounds them, skillfully weaving its threads to hold these packed forces together, ensuring their unity when effort intensifies. Meanwhile, our path crosses a complex network of blood capillaries, where red blood cells flow at crazy speeds like non-stop supply trucks, carrying oxygen and nutrients to the internal combustion engines we'll soon see. As we get closer, we see fine nerve threads creeping between tissues like superspeed information, transmission wires, carrying commands from high command to soldiers stationed in the depths. Here we now focus our lenses on just one bundle, to discover it's not a solid mass, but a world in itself composed of thousands of smaller cylinders, arranged with stunning geometric precision. Now we face the basic unit, the single muscle fiber, which stands before us like a towering Greek column whose end we cannot see, wrapped in a thin membrane that maintains its electrical balance. Then, we feel the outer surface of this fiber, where the delicate endomysium layer resembling a spider's web provides insulation and protection for this giant multinucleated cell. During our flight alongside the fiber, we notice huge bumps beneath the surface. These are the multiple nuclei that work as control and protein manufacturing centers, distributed along this extended entity. Suddenly, the horizon darkens with shadows of a strange body approaching the surface. It's a nerve axon terminal, descending like a giant spaceship preparing to dock with the launch base. After that, we reach the neuromuscular junction, where the two ends don't quite touch, but are separated by a deep valley called the synaptic cleft, where chemistry waits to transform into electricity. Inside the nerve terminal, we see spherical vesicles loaded with chemical messages, crowding at the gate, ready to sacrifice themselves to transmit the motor command coming from the brain. In a crucial moment, the vesicles burst, releasing a cloud of acetylcholine molecules that swim in the void, like luminous cosmic dust, searching for a resting place on the other shore. Then, receptors on the muscle surface eagerly receive these molecules, and as soon as they bind, a luminous tremor runs through the membrane, announcing the beginning of a radical change in the balance of electrical forces. Chemistry then transforms into an electrical storm. We see the action potential wave sweep across the muscle fiber surface at lightning speed, turning silent calm into a state of extreme emergency. As we chase this roaring electrical wave sweeping across the sarcolemma membrane, we realize it's not just a charge, but the code of life commanding every atom in this entity to prepare for action. But this storm doesn't just stay on the surface. It crashes into deep gaps that swallow light and electricity. These are the transverse tubules leading us toward the underworld. Then, we boldly dive inside one of these narrow tunnels, where walls bend and physics flip, carrying with us the charge of electrical excitement to the beating heart of the muscle. The journey becomes increasingly complex the deeper we go, where mysterious structures surround us from every side, and we feel energy vibrations escalate with every micron we travel toward the center. After that, we now settle in the sarcoplasm, the vital fluid filling the cell's interior. And here, far from surface light, the true story of the human movement machine begins. The sarcoplasmic reticulum unfolds before us, a complex system of tubes resembling giant oil refineries, wrapping around the internal fibers, like a snake guarding a buried treasure. This reticular membrane isn't passive, but hums with latent energy, for it's the secure prison where calcium ions are confined. the most dangerous and important element in this equation. Then we reach the triad region, the strategic meeting point where the surface tunnel stands face to face with the sarcoplasmic reticulum stores, waiting for the password. With the arrival of the electrical wave we've been following from the surface, precise voltage sensors detect it, beginning to move mechanically like keys to ancient secret locks. The sensor movement leads to pulling ryanodine channel plugs in the adjacent reticulum in a precise mechanical operation that tolerates no error, not even by an atom's measure. As we take a quick look inside the reticulum stores, we see trillions of glowing calcium ions packing together, jostling and pressing on the walls, yearning for freedom and release. With the gates opening, the great flood begins, where blue ions trickle slowly at first, then turn into a roaring torrent, invading the space surrounding the fibers. Meanwhile, nearby mitochondria watch this scene with anticipation, increasing their pulse rate, realizing that demand for ATP energy currency will reach its peak in moments. Soon, the blue calcium fog spreads into every corner of the sarcoplasm. There's no place left to hide, for the chemical message has reached every part of the machine. Here, we now shift our gaze from the turbulent fluid to the solid, established structures, the myofibrils, the cylinders of movement waiting for this blue tide to arrive. As we walk alongside one of these myofibrils, we notice a beautiful striped pattern of light and dark, repeating regularly, like a musical score written in protein language. We now identify the basic functional unit, the sarcomere, confined between two dark walls, known as Z-disks. And here, the wheel of the coming physical battle will turn. As we approach the Z-disk, which looks like a solid zigzag lattice, we see it works as an anchor, securing thin filaments and bearing enormous tensile forces that could tear steel if measured by our standards. Then, from this wall, sprout the thin actin filaments, extending like twisted pearly ropes toward the sarcomere's center, glittering in the darkness of the microscopic world, awaiting their partner. In the middle, thick myosin filaments float like multi-headed mythical beasts, crouching in place, surrounded by an aura of power and anticipation. The delicate M-line grips the middle of these beasts, ensuring they stay at the sarcomere's heart, preventing any deviation from the precisely planned movement path. We don't overlook the giant molecular springs, titin protein, which connects myosin to the wall, ready to compress and rebound like a tireless heartbeat. As we glide in the narrow space between actin and myosin filaments, we realize the area here is crowded and calculated to the atom, where there's no room for chance or randomness in this system. When we examine the actin filament closely, we find two strands twisted around each other in an eternal helical dance, forming the backbone on which the wheel of movement will run. But actin isn't naked. It's covered by a thin tropomyosin thread, working as a guard closing the doors, preventing any unauthorized contact during rest time. At regular intervals, the troponin complex sits like a three-dimensional lock, holding the tropomyosin guard thread, waiting for the key, now swimming toward it. Then, we turn to myosin, to see its double globular heads protruding outward, resembling golf clubs or oars of a great boat, ready for the stroke of a lifetime. Inside each myosin head, we glimpse an ATP molecule already split, storing enormous chemical energy that puts the head in a cocked trigger position. While the distance between the head and the filament is only a few nanometers, it's a distance that cannot be crossed as long as the guard is present. The tension here is almost palpable. Here comes the tide. Blue calcium ions released from the network now fill the space, dancing around the filaments, searching for their desired target. Then, the ions are magnetically drawn toward the troponin C unit, the part designated for sensing calcium, in a chemical meeting that will change the course of events. The ions lock into the troponin openings with extreme precision, and as soon as they settle, a disturbance occurs in the stability of the entire molecule. We watch in amazement as the troponin changes its geometric shape, twisting and bending under the influence of the new charge, pulling the tropomyosin thread along with it. Soon the tropomyosin thread shifts aside, and suddenly the active sites on the actin filaments are exposed, gleaming like points of light, inviting the myosin heads to approach. The barriers have been lifted, the secrets revealed, and the stage is perfectly set. A very brief silence prevails, the calm before the fusion storm. Very slowly, we see the energy-charged myosin head begin to move, driven by irresistible electrostatic attraction forces toward the exposed site. First contact occurs. The two giants meet the myosin head and the actin filament, and cross bridges form between them, binding their fates together in an unbreakable contract. The cross bridge forms with strength and stability. The myosin has now become part of the actin, forming a unified structure ready to consume the stored energy. With the connection complete, the myosin head expels the phosphate atom it was holding, and this release is the spark that unleashes the mechanical force. Then, the power stroke begins. The myosin head bends violently and forcefully, like a gun trigger suddenly released, pulling the actin filament with tremendous force toward the center of the sarcomere. We watch the actin filament slide smoothly alongside the myosin, reducing the separating distance and translating chemical energy into real mechanical motion. After the stroke ends, the depleted ADP molecule leaves the myosin head, leaving it in a temporary frozen state, gripping the actin tightly, waiting for new fuel. The rescuer comes quickly, a new ATP molecule, fresh and full of energy, swimming toward the exhausted myosin head to free it and recharge it. As soon as the ATP binds to the head, the bond between myosin and actin immediately weakens, and the head detaches, returning to its freedom. But this isn't surrender, it's preparation for another round. Then the ATP is immediately split, and the resulting energy is used to pull the myosin head backward, making it jump back into the ready position, like a bow that's been drawn again. As we pull back a bit to see the wider scene, we see thousands of myosin heads working in amazing harmony, not all moving together, but like a sequential rowing team, ensuring continuous pulling. As a result of this teamwork, the Z-walls approach each other, and the sarcomere compresses on itself, reducing its length in a beautiful physical phenomenon. This doesn't just happen here, but in the adjacent sarcomere, and the next one, an endless chain of synchronized contractions that turn microns into millimeters. The tighten springs groan under the compression, storing massive elastic energy that will be necessary to return the muscle to its original length during relaxation. Heat is generated as a byproduct of this molecular friction and energy consumption, tiny thermal waves emitted to warm the surrounding tissue. The secret of warm life. The H-zone in the middle completely disappears as the actin filaments coming from both ends overlap, and the muscle reaches its maximum possible contraction. We take a quick look at the neighboring factories, the mitochondria working at maximum capacity, devouring oxygen and sugar to pump more energy currency to support this effort. The cycle continues relentlessly, binding, pulling, releasing, and recharging, millions of times per second, a mechanical symphony played by molecules in silence. Suddenly, the command from the brain stops, the nerve signal is cut off, and the electrical storm on the sarcolemma surface dies down, announcing the start of a new phase. The calcium gates in the sarcoplasmic reticulum immediately respond to the electrical silence, closing their doors tightly, cutting off the supply to the battlefield. Here, the mighty calcium pumps, circa, awaken and begin their reverse work, sucking calcium ions from the fluid and forcibly returning them to their storage. As the calcium concentration decreases, the ions detach from the troponin units, forcing them to return to their original shape. The tropomyosin guard returns to cover the active sites on the actin, putting an end to the lover's dance between the filaments and breaking the cross bridges. The myosin heads release their grip and find the doors closed before them, so they retreat backward, conserving their energy for the next round that might be seconds or hours away. The tighten springs are freed from their compression and push with very gentle elastic force on the Z-walls to move apart, returning the sarcomere to its normal length. After that, we begin the return journey, moving away from the sarcomere to see the entire myofibril relax and the striations return to their comfortable spacing. Then we exit to the muscle fiber level, where surface tension disappears, the membrane returns to its calm, and the ionic storms settle in the depths. The fascicle bundles relax, and interstitial fluids flow more freely. The mission is complete, and trillions of tiny machines have performed their role with excellence. We see the complete muscle regaining its length. This relaxation process is no less important and complex than contraction, as it prepares the stage for the next movement. Then, we leave the red depths, piercing the white membranes once again, ascending toward the surface, carrying the epic memory of what happens in hiding. We return through the layers of fat and skin, where the world seems still and simple compared to the mechanical and chemical noise we witnessed below. We return to where we started, seeing the arm move in a simple motion, a graceful bend that appears easy and automatic to the naked eye. But we now know the truth. This simple movement is the product of billions of units working together, trillions of reactions, in a harmony that the greatest maestros cannot replicate. When the athlete wipes his sweat, he doesn't realize the scale of the revolution that occurred inside his cells, nor the amount of energy that was burned to give him this small victory. It's a miracle of biological engineering, where the abstract decision in the mind transforms into physical force that changes reality through a bridge of chemistry and protein. And so, in every movement, every pulse, and every step, life rewrites its story. atom by atom, in a continuous show whose curtain never falls. Salute to those silent engines that work in darkness so we can live in the light, and to the power hidden in the finest details of our human existence. This was the story of movement, a story that begins with a calcium atom and ends with changing the world, a journey into the depths of the nano, where the creator's greatness lies in his finest creation.